Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. Big stories today. A mass stabbing in Sydney, Australia. Going to show you how this connects to the November 9th, 2018 mass stabbing and the January 20th, 2017 mass stabbings in Australia, as well as the mosque shooting in New Zealand earlier this year. They said today's stabber was collecting data on the attack March 15, 2019 in New Zealand. And don't forget that the New Zealand shooter was supposedly from Australia. All of these events, New World Order propaganda to instill fear, hatred, division. So we're going to cover that. Going to go back over the prior stabbings, the very clear parallel. Also, there's a shooting in Riverside, California in the headlines. We're going to talk about that. Today, Russia came out and admitted there was a nuclear accident. Going to talk about that. And also this Israeli drill that just took place involving the U.S., France, and Greece. Operation Mighty Waves simulating a major earthquake. And of course, that's interesting because news media just told everybody to get ready for the big one after the July 4th and July 5th earthquakes in Southern California. So let's start with the stabbings. They say the attacker yelled Allahu Akbar, and of course the media loves to put in that phrase. It's programming. Again, we've seen so many headlines like this ever since September 11, 2001. Allahu Akbar, the Islamic phrase for God is great. And of course, Western media trying to instill in the minds of the masses ever since September 11th that Islam's a dangerous religion, a religion full of terrorists and fundamentalists and radicals. And of course, all religions are full of those people. And of course, all of these headlines are propaganda, news by the numbers. So notice Allahu Akbar has that encoding of 74. Again, very special numbers. Stabbing and killing, summed to 74. Go through the headlines. Every time there's been one of these mass stabbings, whether it's Australia or somewhere else, they say the killer yelled Allahu Akbar. Every time. And this is why. Because all of the headlines are encoded in Gematria. Anytime they emphasize a phrase, it's because there's numbers behind those words that are relevant to the key elements of the story. In this case, stabbing and killing. And of course, this code of letters and numbers comes from Kabbalah, which Masonry is based in. And of course, Masonry controls government, media, police worldwide. So, stabbing, killing, Masonic, Gematria, English, occult, they all sum to 74. And the number they love to pair with 74 is 33. Today's date, August 13, 2019, the day of the stabbing. Date with a life lesson number of 33. Sydney's on the 33rd parallel south. Of course, Masonry, secrecy, order, police, they all sum to 33. Again and again, we see these numbers come together. They say the suspect's a 21-year-old. They haven't put out his name. They say he has mental illness. Of course, that's part of the programming. And he had collected information online about the mass killings in North America and New Zealand. And certain governments are making it illegal to collect information about these shootings, such as the New Zealand mosque shooting footage that was put out. You know, if I'm not mistaken, in New Zealand, if you have that on your own computer or your phone, if you save that video, that's worthy of a major fine and prison time, which is absolutely insane. Of course, it was the mainstream media that helped circulate that story and that video. The New South Wales Police Commissioner who's giving us this story, his name's Michael Fuller, show how again and again the police officers worldwide that are chosen to circulate the details of these contrived stories, their names sync up with the key events. Fuller sums to 74, like stabbing, like we just talked about. And the reduction cipher Fuller and stabbing are the same as well. His name, Michael, sums to 33, like the date numerology, also 138. Today's 13/8, August 13th, as they write it in Australia. Again and again, same things worldwide. police, masonry, secrecy, order, Michael, they're all 33. Now, with regards to today being August 13th, 13/8, like 138, and the attacker being inspired by the Christchurch events, they'll probably say this is retaliation, right? Because that was a white man shooting up Islamic buildings. And by the way, the Christchurch shootings were on March 15th, the 74th day of the year, the Ides of March, for another 74. But in light of them saying that this guy was inspired by those events, and they're clearly making it appear that he's Islamic, Christchurch equals 138, like 13/8, like today, the date. And again, the Christchurch attacker was said to be from Australia. Also from March 15th to today is 151 days later. Jesus Christ equals 151. Again, the powers that shouldn't be are trying to instill divisions in the people of the world, especially between the religions. And think about it. Mosque shootings in Christchurch. We've talked about this since the day it happened. By the way, Jesus Christ also sums to 74. And if you are new here, I'm just going to take a moment to explain this to you. There's 4 base ciphers. The most simple is known as simple English Gematria. It's the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. If you write out simple, it's 74. If you write out English, it's 74. If you write out Gematria, it's 74. Notice this. Jesus is 74. Cross is 74. Messiah is 74. Gospel is 74. If you don't know the Bible, the story of Jesus is the gospel. And Jesus spoke in parables, 74. You see? So anyway, and while we're at it, the most common way they spell Muhammad is 74. Once predicted, years in advance that Muhammad Ali would die at age 74, and of course, he did die at age 74, not by accident. Again, he was a New World Order puppet. He was used to divide the people of the world and to entertain them, and he was taken out by the code. Anyhow, 151 days from the Christchurch shooting to the retaliatory stabbings in Australia, where the shooter again was from, Jesus Christ 151. See how this goes? March 15th, the day of the attack, the 74th day of the year. They said a 41-year-old woman was stabbed. She's being treated for injuries. And a 21-year-old woman was found stabbed to death on the 4th floor apartment. Of course, the number 4 is associated with death. But they said this woman was stabbed on King Street. The word king equals 41. So does the word terror. Terror equals 41. And don't forget, September 11, 2001, 9 plus 11 plus 20 plus 01 equals 41. And they blame that attack on Al-Qaeda in the most simple cipher. Al-Qaeda's 41. So, again, all of these events are connected. It's just New World Order propaganda and programming reinforcing what's already been laid down. The same repetitive message, the same repetitive encoded numbers. When you understand the language that they code, you see why they choose these details that they do. So, a 41-year-old stabbed on King Street. The word terror is also 41. This happened in Sydney, Australia, which sums to 94 as well. So does terror, 94. Don't forget the World Trade Centers opened April 4th, the 94th day of the year. And with regards to 94, from the last stabbing in Australia, November 9th, to today is 9 months and 4 days later. And if you saw the video I did on November 9th about the stabbings there, did a very thorough video. You see how they encode terrorist incident? See how they do that? Terror. You see how they do that? I'm going to show you something about 94 here. Again, terror in the most simple cipher is 94. Terrorist incident with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology is 94. But not only is it encoded in the words and the headlines, but look at this. The 2 stabbings in Australia were separated by guess how many weeks? Guess how many weeks? From January 20th, 2017 to the last one, November 9th, 2018, 94 weeks. See that? 94 weeks. And it was deja vu. It was just like the last one. And you can go back and watch my video from November 9th, 2018. It's still up on this channel, I believe. They took off about 100 channels, 100 videos in May, but I think that one's still up. And it was just a perfectly coded ritual. That one happened in Victoria on November 9th, 11/9, like 119. Again, all these things are controlled by Masonry. Absolutely. Yesterday I had some guy call, and I couldn't get him off the phone. He called from an unlisted number, said he was a Mason, and said that Masonry's not responsible. I was like, oh, okay, you're a Mason in Masonry. You keep your phone number hidden, and you just want to keep talking about how it's not Masonry, it's just the universe. Okay, if you want to believe stuff like that, you're a gullible person. There is an organic side to this code, absolutely, but it's not hard to see who's responsible for this agenda. And, you know, just think about it. A guy calls to persuade me who's a Mason who won't even let his phone number be shown. Just think about it. Just think about it. Not very persuasive. Also, with regards to the 277 days, in addition to the 9 months and 4 days, 277 is the 59th prime number. Those are numbers that cannot be divided except for by one in themselves. Freemasonry sums to 59 in Hebrew and in English. 59. And 59 is the 17th prime number. Modern Freemasonry began in London in 1717. And the word Mason is 17. Notice London got that 74 as well. Like English, like Gematria, like Masonic, like occult. And for a little bit more on the coding of Allahu Akbar, again, there's 4 base ciphers. The alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Notice it's 88 in the most simple cipher, just like program. Just like program is 88. And, again, that's not an accident. And then look at the police chief, the police commissioner who's given the story. Look at his name, Fuller, in light of the Gematria of Allahu Akbar. 74, 74, 34, 34, 88, 88, 209, 29. And with regards to 34, Freemasonry is 139, the 34th prime. The mosque shootings in Christchurch were 134, or excuse me, they were 139 days after the synagogue shooting. So, just talked about these numbers in a big way. In regards to the Oslo shooting on Tisha B'Av, which was connected also to the Christchurch shooting, which coded out Tisha B'Av, and where the shooter was inspired by the Oslo bomber. And then the next date to look for is September 13th, the anniversary of the Oslo Accords. I'd also keep an eye on 2 days from now, because Freemasonry is also 158, 15/8, like August 15th. That's the Jesuit foundation date as well. Jesuits and Masons, a lot in common. Powerful secret societies, both abide by this Kabbalah code of Gematria. Oh, and I don't know how I didn't notice this before, but look at that. Sydney's even on the 151st meridian. And again, from the Christchurch incident to today is 151 days later. And don't forget, in the United States, that shooting on Christmas Hill at the food festival where the shooter's name was Santino, not far from Santa, that was 151 days before Christmas as well. So see if they got something for us on Christmas. They usually leave the world alone on Christmas, but you just never know. They attacked the Muslims at Temple Mount on one of their most important holy days. So maybe this year ends with some Christmas chaos as well. I know about Christmas chaos personally. I had a car crash through my house on Christmas Eve, 2016. And the police were real slow to write up their report. They signed off on it a week later, the perfect date, the perfect numerology, and they waited to sign off on the report until the 33rd minute of the day. True story. Used to have a video up until my main channel was deleted showing that police report. Who would wait to sign off on a police report at the 33rd minute of the day in the middle of the night? You know, that's what happens when you expose how these people work. So, speaking of police, got a shooting in Riverside, California at a freeway. We just had one of these in Houston. The freeway shootout. Here comes another one. So, the victim is 34-year-old Andre Moy. That's the officer that was reportedly killed in this shootout. And notice freeway equals 34, shootout 34, murder 34. One officer was killed and 2 others were injured in a shootout in California. Gun battle near Southern California freeway. So, anyhow, again, that's why you want to know the ciphers. Freeway 833834, shootout 833834, murder 833834. You get the 34-year-old officer, and then his name's Andre Moy, which equals 44, like shooting, like officer, like kill, like execution. His initials are AM. Keep that in mind. A's the first letter, M's the 13th, 113 is the number of mainstream deception. Notice Riverside's 109, like shooting. Riverside, California is also 107, like shooting. Riverside, CA, like you'd write it on an envelope's 113. His initials are AM. A's the first letter, M's the 13th, 113. If you ever want to come to my blog and you forget what 113 is about, just come to my blog and go to the top left corner and type in 113 list. And it'll pull up this post, and you can just go through all the 113. Mainstream, dishonest, perverted, not true, not honest, not factual, disinfo, politics, perjury, fiction, bullshit, infidelity, divorce, sinister. And the list actually goes on. But this comes from the Talmud, Baba Kama 113a, where it says, chosen ones may use lies to circumvent non-chosen ones. It's no secret who controls the media. So, Riverside, CA is also 59, like Freemasonry. We were just talking about this with the incident in Sydney, coming 277 days after the last stabbing, the 59th prime. If there's any Oakland Athletics fans out there, you guys got your 59th season win on July 27th, 27/7, 277, the 59th prime. Oakland Athletics 277. Read about the death of your former player this offseason, 277 days from his birthday, and a car crash. Wasn't an accident either. Again, people are murdered by this code. But this happened yesterday, August 12th, 8 plus 12 plus 20 plus 19, date with 59 numerology. And by the way, today's the date with 60 numerology. Police is also 60. Again, the police drill by the numbers in Sydney. August 12, 2019 was also a date with 32 numerology. Scottish is 32 and 113, as in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which is what controls police, media, government worldwide. And if there really is an officer named Andre Moy who's dead, I'd check whose bullets are in him. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a fellow officer, because that seems to also go on in these rituals. Now, with regards to this Russian accident, today, August 13th, supposedly Russia came out and admitted what happened. It had been treated as a mystery the last couple days in the news. But notice how the media emphasizes accidents happen. Look at what that equals. 138, nuclear test, 138. Supposedly a nuclear missile test went wrong, resulted in the death of scientists. Today's 13/8. Again, why is it always news by the numbers? And I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but they say it happened last week, August 8th, 8/8. And they say it happened in the town of Sarov. I noticed it happened 60 days before Putin's birthday, and Sarov equals 60, so that's interesting. And with regards to it happening on August 8th, 8/8, Vladimir's 88. It was a date with 55 numerology that the accident happened. They said it happened next to this port of Severodvinsk. I can't pronounce it. You know, you got to have that Russian accent, but you have to sit there and practice. Severodvinsk. I don't know, 55. But I don't know if it's more news by the numbers or what's really going on over there. Well, I do know it's news by the numbers, but still don't know what's really going on, so. Also, this other headline they emphasized with an extra word, accidents unfortunately happened, that equals 123 and 147 like conspiracy, so. I have no doubt that that is what's going on. It's always a conspiracy. That's why they shame that word. They make it seem like conspiracies never happen. Just crazy people believe in conspiracies. And then also interesting, in Israel, they just got done doing one of their biggest Navy drills ever. They had participants with France, the United States, and Greece simulating a massive earthquake. And it reminds that after the earthquakes here, July 4th and 5th in the U.S., our media told us to get ready for the big one. And notice Mighty Waves, what they emphasize, it sums to 55 like earthquake. Military is also 55. Hold on. In light of them doing this prep at this time, it reminds that at the beginning of the year, Warren Buffett put out a warning. He put out a letter February 23rd, 2019, and his emphasis in his letter was that people need to get ready for a mega catastrophe, which will have a major economic impact. And he referred to it as the big one, just like the media did after the July 4th earthquake. And what's interesting about him putting out this letter Saturday, February 23rd, 2019, 223, again, natural disaster equals 223. And what else is weird is I was thinking, okay, they're coding the big one all over the place. There's a number of dates that could make sense. One of them is October 7th, because that date can be written 10/7 like 107, earthquakes 107, so is military. If you've never seen my work on the 1989 World Series earthquake in 107, you should check that out. But October 7th is also the day leaving 85 days left in the year, and the big one equals 85. And then what's really weird is from the day that he published his letter about the big one to October 7th is 226 days later. And the big one in Jewish Gematria is 226. So, could be coincidental. Again, there's other dates sooner and later. For example, not to freak you out, but the big one also does sum to 158. And, you could interpret that as August 15th. Again, that earthquake July 4th, July 5th in the U.S., all the media in unison said, we got to get ready for the big one. The big one's coming. Warren Buffett somehow even seems to believe the big one's coming. Could be as soon as this year. Israel's prepping, so just take notice. And that said, I got to get back to work on another project on the Patreon, so thank you for tuning in as always. If you haven't read my book, you definitely should do so. It was banned earlier this year on the Ides of March, but I link it in the description of every video where you can pick it up. Nearly an 800-page book. You only got to read the first 5 pages to get your money's worth, and it's only $5. Should cost a whole lot more, but I priced it there so everyone can afford it. Until next time, Truth Seeker.